topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
This is Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. Do you want to live a more fulfilling life? Do you want to live your legacy and achieve your personal, professional, and financial goals? Well, coming up on Divya Parekh's Beyond Confidence, you will hear real stories of leaders, entrepreneurs, and achievers who have stepped into discomfort, shattered their status quo, and are living the life they want. You will learn how relationships are the key to achieving your aspirations and financial goals. Moving your career or business forward does not have to happen at the expense of your personal or family life, or vice versa. Learn more at www.divyaparekh.com, and you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. This is Beyond Confidence, and now here's your host, Divya Parekh.
Good morning, listeners, and today, so thrilled to be here with you. I want to share something beautiful that happened. So I'm on the beach side and we were out having a beautiful lunch, and we found out that Sandra, beautiful, beautiful person who was helping us out with her food, she was so kind. Whenever she observed one of her clients on the tables, that as soon as they were out of water or something, she would bring it in. Or there was something going on, there was some look on their face, they did not like it. So that's amazing, that how you can be kind without even somebody asking you. So keep the kindness going. And also I want to share with you that let's invite our guests in and we'll get started. Welcome, Dr. Winifred Bragg.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well, so we start out initially from, if you recall a moment from your childhood or youth when somebody left a positive mark on you.
They left a good mark on me. Well, I always had a good teacher in high school who always told me that she thought that I could be anything that I wanted to become. And actually, I had to do a science project one year, and she had invested in me so much that she came to my home to make sure that I had everything right before the competition. And so that left a mark on me that sometimes you have to reach back and do extra to pull people forward.
Wow. Now that is so amazing that somebody took that time because they're seeing the potential within you and giving that additional time.
Right.
So, yeah. So tell us what led you to medicine?
Well, actually, I'm a gardener. I still garden now. I enjoy it. And I enjoyed my plants. And my dad would say, he would see me talking to plants and everything. And he'd say, now listen, what are you going to do? I said, I want to go work with plants when I grow up. And he said, I don't know a job that you can do with that, but you can transfer that love to people that you have for plants. And so I was interested in sciences. And so I wanted to go on and help people in healthcare.
Oh, that's beautiful, because, and I'm sure you're bringing the same heart like your teacher did to your patients.
Well, I try to do that. I've been very fortunate to have some very good mentors from high school and in medical school that reached back and took time to shape me. And I realized how important that is to help others.
And so how did you get into the bragging thing? Because so many times what happens is that people are not comfortable talking about themselves. People think oh yeah, I did the good work. and my good work and hard work will be noticed, but that's not the case.
Well, I got into that maybe about 13, 15 years ago. I'm a
Mm,
pain doctor by training, and I treat people who suffer from spinal and orthopedic pain, who maybe
mm.
have hurt their backs, their shoulders, and a lot of times it affects where they cannot go back to work or they lose their job. And so what I realized that a lot of people, when they lost their job, they associated themselves and their value was connected to their job. And they didn't realize all the other good things they had about themselves. I had a 25-year-old gentleman once who lost his limb, what we
Mm.
call a below the knee amputation. And he had always wanted to have a family and be a father and marry, but he didn't think anyone would want him because he
Oh,
lost his limb. And one of the things I started doing was confidence training with him and teaching him that there was more to him. He had the inside is what matters, not the outside. So I started trying to help my patients understand their value. And when they understood their value and they lost jobs because of bad back injuries, we could do an inventory of their skills, and then it was easy for them to pivot to something else. And so that's when I created the Bragg Factor, and I started telling them, you got to find your Bragg Factor, and that's more than just your job.
that is so true because, yeah, no, definitely. So, there are so many people out there, right? Like, I'm sure, like, especially since we have a lot of women in our audience. And now I hear from a lot of men as well that there is that doubt, like, I'm not enough, or who am I to kind of talk about it? So, how can they get started?
Well, I tell people to try to take an inventory, what I say to find your Bragg Factor. Write down 3 qualities or strengths that you have that you think are unique. And if you don't know what they are, you can ask your friends. Notice, what do your friends come and ask you? Sometimes we have just natural born gifts, and our friends will come by all the time and ask, hey, can you help me organize this? Can you give me your opinion on these things? I have a problem. And so if people come to you with that all the time, that says that that may be a gift that you have that you need to grow. And so always take an inventory of your skills and what others are saying about you. And that'll help you to identify your Bragg Factor. And then when you get that, you start in the morning. Rather than listening to your iPhone and all those other things, you want to get up in the morning and start your day with confidence, reminding yourself that, as you said, you're good enough. And what are those things that you wrote down that are good about you that you need to tell yourself each morning? I'm a good problem solver. I'm a good organizer. I'm creative. I'm a good mom, dad, father. And tell yourself that. And those little steps will help you to develop some confidence about yourself and your value.
Yeah, no, definitely. So it it does that, like, you're developing the confidence about that. And then the question kind of comes up, is that okay? I have developed the confidence. How can people share that confidence or that brag factor with others?
Well, what I tell people, you need to create what I call with my name. Bragg is obviously my last name. And so what I tell people, you need to create what I call your 30-second brag. Some people would call that your elevator pitch, but I say it's your 30 seconds to brag about you. And you want to write it down with a template, who you are, what you do, and how you help others. And then what's your wow statement? And that's how you can do that. And you can start sharing that with others. Write that on a piece of paper, practice it in the mirror, practice it on your iPhone or whatever kind of phone you have. See how it sounds. Share it with a friend. And that's how you develop being able to introduce yourself to others in what other folk may say a bragging way. But what I tell people, brag is a 5-letter word, not a 4-letter word. It's BRAGG, because that second G stands for gratitude. And when you brag from a standpoint of gratitude, it's not obnoxious.
Well, you brought up a couple of good points. You said that it's not obnoxious. So how can so many people are hesitant that I will sound arrogant. I will sound that like braggadocious. So, how can they, first of all, differentiate between being braggadocious and the brag factor that you're recommending?
Well, the way it is, like I said, if you do it from a standpoint of gratitude, say you won Man or Woman of the Year, you might say in 2020, I was Woman of the Year because of the things I did in my community. And I'm so honored that I was given this award. See how you said, I'm so honored that I was given that award. I was on a show with someone, and they were saying that they were one of the top radio shows, and they thanked their audience for that. They said, I'm a top radio show, and I'm thankful to my audience for listening every morning. See how that gives gratitude to someone else as you're really bragging, saying you're a top show, you're bragging about yourself, but you gave some gratitude to those who helped you move along. Like I may say that I have a 5-time best-selling author, but my first book, I was given an endorsement by Coach K from Duke University, and I'm so honored and proud and thankful that he endorsed my book, which propelled me to a #1 status.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Mhm.
And that's beautiful what you're sharing, that come from a place of gratitude. And what you're doing is you're showing that you're not the only one. And I believe in that, that none of us are an isolated island or an island by ourselves. The key is like we have a community that is involved, whether it's family, friends, patients, or whoever is in your circle of influence that help you rise to the top and are part of your success. So that's beautiful. So is there, like you mentioned, G is for gratitude. Does brag stand for like different things? Like
Yes,
B for something?
it's 5 letters, BRAGG. B
Uh-huh.
stands for behave as if. In other words, if you say running about being confident, or maybe you want to be have a certain job or certain position, then start behaving like the person you want to be and model, because success leaves crumbs. So you can model yourself behind that person that you admire or what you want to become. R stands for resist the urge to quit and complain. A lot of times we can't reach our goals because we get so caught up in the negative things of complaining about it. So resist the urge to do that. A stands for accept no limitation. And as I spoke earlier, the first G in brag stands for grow your gift. A lot of times it's not the job that we have that propels us to success. It could be one of our natural gifts. And so G stands for grow your gift. And that last G, most importantly, stands for gratitude. So it's BRAGG.
That's beautiful. And what you have come up with here is very solid. And thank you for sharing in details. So you shared a couple of examples. So that is amazing. You've already given us a template. You mentioned earlier about a wow statement. Can you tell us more about that?
Wow, kind of like you, who you are. You're Dr. Winifred Bragg, and I help emerging leaders and high performing professionals to be able to advance their career and meet their goals. I am a 5-time best-selling author and the creator of the Bragg Factor. I've been featured on ABC and NBC News. So that wow statement is when I come back and tell you I've been on NBC, ABC News, and that I have been a 5-time best-selling author. So that can be your credential. That could be, as I spoke earlier, you a woman of the year, a man of the year, something that's unique that a person would say, wow, so that they can want to engage you later on. You may be having been doing something from a volunteer standpoint. A lot of times a wow statement can be based of something you did from a volunteer standpoint. You helped the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, to raise $10,000 through your working with them, or you're in Rotary and you help them raise money for polio through what you did with some of the organizations that you're in.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense because what you're talking about here is the authority positioning, the credibility factor. And when you say the wow statement is like, what is it that people trust? So as you mentioned, like ABC, NBC News. So it's the power of association. Dr. Bragg was on the news. She's a 5 times bestseller. She's somebody.
Right, right. So that's your wow statement. And depending on which audience you're in, you have a different 30-second brag.
Yeah,
If I'm speaking to people about my medical career who are coming to me with back pain, they don't really care about me and what I'm doing with people with leadership. They want to know about their back. And so you have to have a different 30-second brag depending on where you are and who you're talking to, but always true to what you do.
absolutely. And so what I'm hearing is that it's important to know who your audience is. What are their pain points? What are they looking for? And then that way, if you are telling, because you mentioned that who you are, how do you help? So that would be important to keep that in mind.
Always. You always want to do things from a service standpoint. And that's the thing when you're bragging. If you do it from a standpoint of how can I help you and how you serve someone else, it's not going to come off as bragging because you're just telling them how you're credible and what your skills are, but how you can help them. And that's going to make it where it's not braggadocious.
Absolutely. And so a lot of people may be thinking that this is you're talking about what you do from a point of service. But then there are people who feel the need to brag about their achievements without even somebody asking them. So how can people differentiate between the two? Like, people don't know you. Let's say you're introducing yourself. So you've talked about gratitude, you've talked about service. Is there something in the body posture and also like the tonality that they're talking about?
Well, I always say your face and what you say has to go together. And so you want to sound excited about what you do and how you can help people. And then that's going to help them to know you're sincere about it. But if you're saying it from a kind of cocky, arrogant tone, then people know that it's not sincere when you're doing your bragging. And it needs to fit with the situation. You just don't come up to the person and just blurt it out, 5-time best-selling author. It has to be within the context of what you're talking about so that it kind of fits. But you want to say something that's short and memorable so that they can be engaged and want to ask you more is what the key is. You want to be able to build a relationship. And so you want to be able to say something so they want to ask you something else.
Yes. I think that was a really good point that you shared about that. Like, when you're in a conversation, then they can definitely go ahead and ask you different questions. So when you're giving that 30-second elevator pitch or the brag pitch, whichever we want to call it, the whole idea is to elicit that further conversation. So is there any other element that people need to include in terms of like eliciting conversation with another person?
Well, I would like to invite your people to go to my website, TheBraggFactor.com, and there they can download what I call my 4 Ps of how to build long-lasting business relationships.
Hmm.
See, life wasn't always this way. You got to realize when I first became a doctor, I had $100,000 in debt for medical school. And so I would go to networking events to try to get referrals because I needed referrals to build a practice. And I would go, "Hi, I'm Dr. Bragg." And, people say a little something like, "So what?" And they move on down. And I would come home with zero referrals. So I had to learn how to introduce myself. But I also had to learn is what can I say so that people want to be engaged by me. So I created 4 P's that I had to learn. And what I say is, you'd want to learn about the people that are important to the person you're trying to serve, not just about you, make it about them. And so you find out, do they have children? What are they involved in? What do they do? So that when you see them next time, you'll be able to say, how's your daughter? How's your son? How's your significant other? How's your husband? What are you doing? So you want to know about the people. Then you want to know, what is those person's passions? I have a coach who is a big Philadelphia Eagles football fan. Well, up until a few years ago, the Philadelphia Eagles had never won a Super Bowl. And so when I text him one day out the blue when they won, hi, Steve, Philadelphia Eagles won Super Bowl. Congratulations. He was so excited that I remembered that tidbit about him, that he gave me some free coaching hours. He gave me some books, because he knew that then our relationship had been about him, not about me. So you want to know that. And then you want to know, what's the people's purpose? Do they volunteer? Is there something a mission that they like beyond themselves? And then what is their pain? What do they struggle with? What are they challenged with? It could be something simple, and someone's new in town, and maybe they have an animal, a dog, and they say, I want to go out, but I don't have a dog sitter. How can you help me? When you help them solve that problem, guess what? They are going to want to get back and be involved with you. So those 4 P's, I have a nice brochure about that tells you situations and things that can help you when you're at networking, so that you can try to build long-term business relationships.
Yeah, no, that is beautiful. Like, understanding what you told about understanding who is important to the people you serve, and it's about them. That is so powerful, because at the core of it, if you have that service attitude, if you're going in with an open heart to support others, then it's not a brag factor. It is just a connection factor. That's how I see it.
That's right. It's a connection factor. And that's what you want to do. You want to be able to connect with people, so that the next time you see them, obviously you don't get all those 4 P's the first time you meet them, but you get them over time. So the first time you see them, you may learn about the people. Next time, something else. And when you learn that, valuable it is when you re-engage them, because they're going to feel connected to you, because you were connected to them and wanted to know about them and not about you.
Yeah, no, and the story that you shared was beautiful. Do you have a couple of other stories in mind that you have done with some of your clients that you'd like to share?
Well, I had a client that was she came to a workshop, and she had raised maybe $10,000 for her charity. And we went around and talked about unique things you had done. I was talking about getting your wow factor together, and she just said, well, I just raised $10,000 for some charity. But she used the word just. And what I told her is, you should never describe what you're doing by the words just and only, because that minimizes and diminishes your accomplishments. And so I told her to eliminate that word just from her vocabulary. She was in marketing, but she couldn't find a job. So we did an inventory, as I said, of her skills, her qualifications, and her gifts. And now she has her own business where she is doing website development, because she was a graphic artist, and that was her hobby, not really her job. But she took her gift, hobby, and translated it into a job.
Yeah, it's so true. So true. Very true. And that's a beautiful story. So tell us a little bit more about who is, like, you did mention initially your audience. Is there, before we kind of go towards the end of the show, is there any other things that you'd like to share?
I like to share that once a month on the second Tuesday at noon Eastern, I am trying to help other people. I've been successful by using those 4 P's and learning about my 30-second brag. So I want to be able to help others to be able to be successful from where they are to where they want to be. So on the second Tuesday of every month at noon, I'm looking to try to help people who are struggling with reaching their goals and struggling with growing their business. And I have a monthly coaching program. It lasts an hour, is virtually from noon to 1 p.m. Eastern. And they can find out more about it by going to my website, TheBraggFactor.com. It's called the Bragg Factor Next Level Network.
Oh, fantastic. And you have mentioned about that you're a 5 times bestseller. Tell us a little bit more about your books and where can people find them?
You can find my books on Amazon. I have 5 books. One's on back pain, but the other 4 are on the Bragg Factor series. I have one that teaches people how to move forward in a competitive job market. One is for college students and one's for professionals. And then I have a book on dreams without goals are nightmares. And there you'll find where I research millionaires and billionaires to see what did they do that made them successful. And I have in there a formula that I have taught to a lot of my clients to help them to be able to reach their goals. It's called Goals Equal W to the 4th Power. 4 questions you simply have to ask. And it's in that book, and it talks about the 4 questions you need to ask when you're really trying to reach a goal. And as an accompaniment to that book, there's a 90-day journal that most goals, if you really stick to them in 90 days, you should have made some progress with them. So it's a 90-day journal.
Very powerful. So, wonderful audience, as you have heard, Dr. Bragg has shared with us very openly and generously her tips. So do definitely check out her website, which is TheBraggFactor.com, her books, and as she mentioned about her program, because I'm sure, you will receive a lot of value from it. So any other last thoughts you'd like to share, Dr. Bragg?
Well, I just want to encourage and try to motivate and inspire others that sometimes we get caught up in labels or what other people have said about us. We're too young, we're too old, we don't have enough experience. And what I want to share with you is when I was in medical school and I was on a fixed income with all of that, I went to a store. And in that store, I saw a sign that said damaged products. And I asked the store guy, what is this? He said, these are canned goods that have been dented, bent. Rice cartons have been torn, cereal boxes torn. And so we have to discount it. I said, how much is it? He said, 50% off. I said, let me try some of those dented cans of canned goods and torn rice boxes. But when I went home and ate the stuff, guess what? The food was just as good on the inside as the cans that were not dented. And so what I want to tell you, that sometimes we fall down, we have failures, and people label us too old, too young, not enough experience. But don't focus on your outside, focus on the inside, and it's the inside that matters. And when you do that, that's going to help you to know and own and be able to communicate your value. And that's what Bragg Factor is really about, owning and communicating your value.
That's beautiful, just like you are outside and inside. Well, thank you, Dr. Bragg, and thank you, wonderful audience, for being part of the show. Just reach out to us like you always do, and I so appreciate each and every one of you reaches out, shares your story, and lets us know, how we can support you. So never hesitate. We are here to serve and support you. And Juan, thank you for making the show technically possible. Until next time, be well and take care.
Thank you for being part of Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. We hope you have learned more about how to start living the life you want. Each week on Beyond Confidence, you hear stories of real people who have experienced growth by overcoming their fears and building meaningful relationships. During Beyond Confidence, Divya Parekh shares what happened to her when she stepped out of her comfort zone to work directly with people across the globe. She not only coaches people how to form heart connections, but also transform relationships to mutually beneficial partnerships as they strive to live the life they want. If you are ready to live the life you want and leverage your strengths, learn more at www.divyaparekh.com. And you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. We look forward to you joining us next week.